Whether you're closing a massive deal or just trying to get a better price on a car, we are all negotiating, all the time. But how do you level up? How do you go from just taking part to actually mastering the game? Well, that's what we're here for. In this explainer, we are going to build your complete toolkit for commercial negotiation. So let's kick things off with a big question. Is negotiation some kind of mystical art that relies on gut feeling? Or is it a science with rules and processes that you can actually learn? And while, yeah, there's definitely an art to it, the best negotiators on the planet know it's a science you can master. So let's break down that formula. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to build a complete framework, starting with the two basic approaches to any negotiation. Then we'll figure out where your real power comes from, get into the all-important numbers, cover some practical tactics for the table, and finally lock in on the ultimate goal of any great deal. Okay, so every negotiation you'll ever enter starts with one fundamental choice. Are you there to fight over a fixed set of resources? Or are you there to work together and actually create more value for everyone involved? This choice, right here, it defines the entire game you're about to play.
The first approach is what's called distributive negotiation. This is the classic, old-school win-lose scenario. Think of it like this. There's one pie, it's a fixed size, and your job is to get the biggest slice possible. This naturally leads to a more adversarial style, where hiding your cards and withholding information becomes a key tactic.
But then there's the second, and I'd argue much more powerful approach, integrative. This is all about getting to a win-win. It's about collaborating, being open about what you really need, your interests, and then getting creative to expand the pie so that both of you can walk away with more than you thought was possible.
And this quote, it just perfectly captures that integrative mindset. It's a total shift from me versus you to us versus the problem. The whole focus is on building a partnership, not just trying to win a fight. Okay, but how do you actually shift a negotiation from a slugfest to a collaboration? Well, it all starts with understanding where your power, your leverage, really comes from. And here's a spoiler. It's not about being the biggest company or having the loudest voice. True power in any negotiation comes from one place: preparation. And that brings us to maybe the single most powerful tool in your entire kit, your BATNA. It stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. To put it simply, what's your plan B? What's your walkaway plan? Knowing this with crystal clarity isn't just a backup plan, it's the absolute bedrock of your strength at the table. So building your BATNA is a really clear 3-step process. First, you just brainstorm and list all your alternatives. Step 2, you don't just accept them, you actively work to make them better. And finally, you pick the single best one. See, when you have a strong BATNA, you negotiate from a place of confidence, not desperation. Now, beyond your BATNA, power also comes from you personally. You might have legitimate power from your job title or expert power because you know the subject inside and out. You could even have referent power just because people trust and respect you. Knowing which of these you have in your back pocket is absolutely key to shaping your strategy. All right, let's switch gears and get into the financials. Because every, and I mean every, great deal is built on a rock-solid understanding of costs and value. You simply can't negotiate effectively if you don't know the numbers. Okay, first things first, we have to get the difference between direct and indirect costs. Direct costs are the easy ones. Think raw materials, the stuff that's literally in the product. Indirect costs, or overheads, are trickier, things like the factory rent, which is shared across tons of products. Understanding this difference is your first step to really questioning a supplier's pricing. Now, suppliers calculate their costs in different ways. The traditional absorption method can really distort how much a product actually costs to make. A more modern approach, called activity-based costing, is way more accurate. So why does this matter to you? Because if you know how they're doing the math, you can challenge their numbers and find hidden wiggle room in their price. And this formula right here, this is critical. The break-even point tells you the exact moment, the exact price or volume where a supplier stops losing money and starts making it. Knowing this number, or even just having a good estimate, gives you an incredibly powerful anchor point for all of your price targets. Okay, you've got the right mindset, you understand your power, and you've done the math. Now, it's time to actually sit at the table. So let's talk tactics and how to manage the conversation.
So, there are some key persuasion tactics you can use to help shape the conversation. Anchoring, for example, is when you make a strong first offer to set the psychological range for the whole negotiation. Or rational persuasion, which is just using objective facts and data to build your case. When you use these ethically, they're just tools to guide the talk toward a great outcome for everyone.
You know, a successful negotiation isn't just chaos. It follows a clear four-stage process. It all starts with deep preparation, and honestly, that's where most of the real work gets done. From there, you move into proposing and bargaining, and finally, you get to closure, where the deal is finalized and gets that formal sign-off or ratification from everyone involved. And this is just a brilliant example of what's called a manageable question. Instead of an aggressive challenge like, why is your price so high? This question is open, it's not confrontational, and it genuinely seeks to understand their logic. This keeps the dialogue constructive and is way more effective at getting you the information you need.
Okay, let's tie all of this together now by focusing on the ultimate goal of any principled negotiation. And it goes way beyond just getting a signature on a piece of paper. The foundational principle of any good negotiation is this: separate the people from the problem. This is an absolute game changer. It means you can be tough, really tough, on the issues, the deadlines, the numbers, the terms, all while being respectful and collaborative with the human being sitting across the table. And that really gets to the heart of it all. Great negotiation isn't about crushing your opponent or winning some kind of battle. It's about solving a puzzle together. The true goal is to build a sustainable agreement that creates real value for both sides long after you shake hands. So that leaves us with a final thought for you. Price is almost never the only thing on the table. So in your next deal, ask yourself, what else is there? Could it be payment terms, delivery schedules, maybe quality improvements, or even joint marketing? Where can you expand the pie and create brand new value for both sides?